Well, hello there, and welcome to your general weekly reading for the week beginning October 15th, 2018. This week I'm using the Mystic Fairy Tarot cards by Barbara Moore and interpreting any additional messages that come in from the universe and from the energies so that we can have the best understanding of what we can expect in this upcoming week. So I hope you are doing well. I hope that you are faring well in this October fall time. I have been finding what I've been getting the last couple weeks is a bit of rawness in the air. There's some exhaustion flying around out there, so if you're feeling abnormally tired and you just want to sleep all the time, that's okay. It just might make getting rest more of a top priority for you, and that's totally fine. So just serve yourself in whatever way that you need to get through this time. And typically when there's a lot of energy coming, or typically when we're feeling exhausted, it's because there is this energy coming in that is kind of forcing us to shut down a little bit so that we can reset ourselves. So it's almost an unconscious healing that goes on because our conscious minds will take a back seat because all we want to do is rest or zonk out in front of the television, so that our unconscious mind and our unconscious life can be shifted and start to rearrange itself a little bit. What I am feeling is there is some karma coming up this week for us that should have played out 3 years ago, so 2015. So look back at your life and where you were at this time in 2015 and see if there was any sort of situations that you didn't handle or you didn't deal with, or any relationships that were left opened. And nothing, it doesn't mean that something bad is going to happen. It just means that it might be time to close that book a little bit and to resolve some of those issues or hurts, past hurts, those kinds of things. Yeah, it could also be things that were supposed to happen in 2015 that didn't. So what I mean by that is you can change, your future isn't necessarily written in stone. So, but every single day you make different choices which can change your future. So there could have been something that you decided you were going to do in 2015, and then maybe something happened and steered you off your path, or something got in the way, or you've just made a decision that you weren't ready to do it. It wasn't really, at the time, it could have felt like it was for the best, but it always may have felt like the wrong decision if you made a decision back then that felt right, but now you're looking back and wasn't probably the best decision to make. You do have the opportunity this week in particular to go back and make those changes now that you would have made in 2015. It's almost like that chapter is reopening temporarily for you to rewrite if you're interested in that. This week feels like an interesting week energetically. It's very much sorry, it's hard to explain. I'm just feeling a lot of pressure in my head. I don't really know why it's there. It could just be energy. So just be cognizant, I guess, of how you're feeling and how you're feeling around other people, because other people could be influencing you and even sending energy your way that you don't necessarily want. Try to stay out of drama this week as much as you can every week, but this week in particular might just be a good week to stick to yourself a little bit because there is this rawness in the air that we talked about. So with this rawness, people are on edge. People are more confrontational than they typically are. So just have compassion for yourself and others as well. And just because people are pushing your buttons doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to, or that they're trying to hurt you in any way. So just have compassion for others, including yourself, during this time. And understand that the way that somebody makes you feel is about the holes within you, but the things that people are saying and the actions that they take, it doesn't really have anything to do with you. It doesn't have any bearing on you as a person. It's their own stuff. And when people project and they accuse us of doing things in a really mean way, It's just that they're acting out and they're not taking accountability for their own behavior and their own stuff. So just be mindful of that going through the week, to watch out for people doing that to you and also you doing that to other people. Don't project your own stuff onto other people. And notice when you're being judgmental or accusatory towards someone, and notice the words that you're saying. Are they things that you actually feel about yourself? Okay, what do we need to know for the week of October 15th? What is our theme? Okay, that was weird. They were talking to me and then they all went quiet, and so then I wasn't sure which one to pick. Okay. Okay. Oh no. So the Five of Cups we have for the theme of this week. So she's sad. So what it's important to remember about the Five of Cups is that we may be crying over spilled milk, but there's plenty more milk in the fridge that we can just fill up our cup again. So when we look at the Five of Cups, it's despair, it's sadness, it is defeat in a certain way. This isn't the best card we've ever gotten in this reading, but it's definitely not the worst. And it's just a nice warning for you to go into your week knowing that you are probably going to be a little bit more on edge. Raw, that was the very first thing that came out in this reading before we pulled the cards. This is rawness. This is your emotions. This is you feeling defeated. So be mindful of that as you go through this week. Do things that is going to nurture you in that way and avoid harsh situations and harsh people and harsh environments. If you know that certain people aren't the most loving and supportive of you, maybe this isn't the best week to hang out with them. Surround yourself with people who love you and who are nice to you. And if there's nobody that is nice enough to you, maybe it's a good week to just go within the self and just learn how to be by yourself and just really look at that relationship with yourself and the things that you can maybe do to make yourself feel better, if that makes sense. No. Okay, so another 5. So 5 is numbers of change. So we could have some change happening this week if there's some changes that you would like to make. Sometimes when we feel like this, that we feel totally defeated and just overwhelmed, it's a great time to look at the things that we want to change. But I do caution you with that, because if you're feeling sad and you're looking around at your life and you think that you need to change everything, it can be very overwhelming, and it's not always based in a place of love. It's based from your ego. And it could just be that your emotions are making you feel bad about or your ego is making you feel bad about yourself, and your emotions are just kind of amplifying that. And the messages that you're getting from your emotions are just negative, because it's either stuff clearing or it's your mind trying to hurt you even more. I shouldn't say your mind, your ego trying to make you hurt even more. Then we can be tempted to make a bunch of changes and to look at our lives as failures, and that we don't actually know what we're doing, and we want to make all of these changes right now because we're not the people that we want to be. So we can begin to want to make all of these changes all at once, and that's great. I encourage you to make changes as you can, but also be cognizant of the fact that you don't always have to change everything at once. And just because you're not a perfect person doesn't mean that you're an awful person and that you have to change everything to make anything out of yourself or any sort of progress in your life. Sometimes it's just as simple as acknowledging that you want to do something and questioning it to see where it's coming from. Is it coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of fear or obligation? With everything that we see on a daily basis out there from the media and from social media, all of that crap, we see that people are living very different lives than we are. And we can sometimes begin to feel guilty about not doing more and not doing better and not always hustling and proving your worth. So we want to make these changes. But when you're in a space of this this is not always the most empowered state to be in to make those enormous changes, because it makes us feel almost worse about ourselves and what we're doing. So all of this to say, if you have a craving to make some changes this week, caution and look at where those are coming from and why it is that you want to make those changes. Is it coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of fear and avoidance? And if it's coming from fear, do not feed into it. Only do things that are coming from love, because the more that you begin to feed that part and feed your intuition that's telling you and guiding you to those things that you love, the stronger it'll be and the more it'll guide you to where you need to be. So Monday, Tuesday, we have the Five of Wands. So the Five of Wands, again, I said it was a number of change. The Five of Wands is about discovery. So in this particular suit, there's a story of these two kids finding a dragon's egg and deciding what it is that they want to do with it. So you may discover a new passion this week. You may uncover some sacred, interesting part of you that you didn't know even existed. You may find activity that really makes you excited on the beginning of the week. And you have a decision to make. Are you going to go forward with it, or are you going to think about it? Are you going to retreat back and go into that place of fear because you don't think that you could actually succeed in it, or that you would be stupid to do it, or whatever it is? I'm going to come back to that again. Okay, so for the middle of the week, we have Judgment. So Judgment did come out earlier when I was shuffling before we started videoing this. So this is a really important card for us this week. It's actually been coming out in a few of the readings that I have done earlier in the last couple days too. So the Judgment card, in this sense, we have a major arcana, which doesn't give us a whole lot of control. But in this case, I am feeling like this is to check your judgments of yourself and others. So this will be a huge week for Judgment, and that's coming from this place. So it's not an empowered place to be in. We're feeling very low, perhaps very raw, and if we don't allow our emotions to guide us in the right way, and we're allowing them to kind of take us deeper and deeper into the sadness, and we're feeding the sadness, we can be very judgmental because we're not in a good space. So we are judgmental of ourselves and others to tear other people down so that we can come up. So just be cognizant of that in the middle of the week. I also see here that middle of the week, judgment may come down on you if you have some sort of legal situation happening that may be resolved in the middle of the week. I'm also feeling like there's a bit of a judgment happening in the workplace. So whether it's reviews or you have some sort of conversation with your leader about how you're doing. This is not really the greatest week for you to have that conversation because you're already feeling a bit sad and a bit raw. But just really use this at the beginning of the week to bring yourself out of that emotional place and into a more happy place. When we're doing our passions and we're having fun, we pull ourselves out of that place of sadness and we're living in alignment with our soul. So the more that you can do that this week, and the more that you can find happiness and continue to stay there instead of staying in a sad place, will help you move through the rest of the week and whatever it is that you expect. And it'll make hearing that feedback or those judgments a little bit easier. But I also want to call out here is that as long as you're not being a jerk, and as long as you are treating people with love and respect, and you're not lying to yourself about how you act around people or how you interact with people. If you're in a state of denial and you're actually not being very nice to people, but you keep thinking that it's everyone else's problem, that's a different story. So look at those judgments of yourself. But for those of you who are being just good people and you are lovely people, don't allow the opinions of others to make any sort of impact or decision on you as a person, because often what everybody else thinks about you is none of your business. And I say that with the assumption that you are not walking around being a jerk to people unnecessarily. But as long as you know who you are and you're treating people with respect and you're honoring your own self again with love, not with thinking that you're better than other people or anything like that. But if you're coming from a humble, loving space, what other people think about you and how other people interpret or perceive your behavior is none of your business. And please do not allow that to have this sort of impact on you, because that is what it is. It's their judgments, it's their perception, it's their opinion. So you know who you are and you know what you need to work on, and that's all that matters. And the worst thing that you can do is to lie to yourself. And part of lying to yourself is believing what other people think about you over your own internal guidance system. So, yeah, don't allow other people's judgments to impact you. It's going to probably be hard this week, but I know that you can do it. You just got to have as much fun as you can this week so that you're in a more elevated space. And I should mention that too. When we're in it's interesting that this is coming up when we have this theme of crying and, you know, feeling really sorry for ourselves and feeling disappointed. It's because we're attracting it almost, because when you're in a higher vibration, when you're feeling really good about yourself and your life and you're very fulfilled, you don't necessarily attract negativity. You attract those kinds of things, right? Light attracts light. Light attracts light basically too, right? So when we're feeling happy, we attract other things that will make us happy. But when we're not feeling happy, we attract that even more. And so if you are attracting a lot of negativity lately, this is not to call you out, but just look within yourself and see if maybe the way that you have been feeling the last little while is attracting that type. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or anything like that. It could just mean that that's just your experience for right now. But it gives us a piece of understanding and power to know that, okay, well, I am perhaps attracting more of this because I feel like I'm vibrating here. So that's why other stuff is that's a match for that is coming at me now. And so that's why people are more judgmental of me this week, is because I'm allowing that space to attract and find me. If that makes sense to you. Try to stay happy so that even when somebody is giving you some sort of feedback, they're even coming towards you at a higher level as well. And don't forget that other people's opinions it's not based in fact. Okay, so I had a hair in my mouth, sorry. We have 9 of Wands for the weekend. And so the 9 of Wands is the end of this story here that we talked about, the dragon's egg. So this is about consequences. So whatever you decided to do on Monday, Tuesday, you will understand on the weekend. And you have this period of judgment too in the middle. So it's almost like what I'm kind of seeing this consecutively is like you make a decision, you uncover something that makes you a bit excited. Could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. It's up to you to decide that. You make your judgments and you make your decision, or people judge you or you judge other people. And then you're kind of faced with the consequences on the weekend. And when I say consequences, I need to find a better word for it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Sometimes it's a really great thing, but it's kind of like it's time to pay the piper. You've made your decision, you've made your bed, and now it's time to lay in it. And it could be a very comfortable bed, or it could not be. So again, be careful in what it is that you are deciding. When we're living through a place of love, and like I mentioned a little while ago, that you attract what you're putting out there. If you're living from a space of love and happiness, and your focus is to make yourself happy by filling your life up with passions and elevating your frequency and all of those kinds of things, things will be easier to deal with because it won't seem so overwhelming, because we're coming from a more enlightened space. So we can understand things and we can let things go much easier than when we're coming from a already overwhelmed and a distraught phase or frequency. Then, anything else on top of that just seems like too much. So I encourage you this week to try to get yourself out of that emotional raw space by having fun. Emotions are good, feeling your emotions are good. I just don't want you to get stuck in a pity party. So have a balance. So have your emotions, feel whatever you're feeling. But the minute that you start to tell yourself that you deserve this, or that you're a bad person, or that you are a loser, or you're never going to accomplish anything, I want you to stop and bring yourself back to a place of love, and pretend that you're your own best friend. What would you say to your best friend if your best friend was saying this about you? And it takes practice, and to stand up in your mind and just tell everyone to shut up, and that you're in control, and that you are a good person. It takes practice, but it does help. So I really encourage you to come back to a place of love. As cheesy as that sounds, it is true, and it'll make you have a much happier life. And if you are having trouble doing that internally, go out and externally have fun. Do something that makes you joyful with people who make you joyful, and do it in a place where you have no inhibitions. Just go for it and just have a good time. So there you go. I hope that you have a fantastic week ahead, filled with life and laughter and happiness and healthy emotions and healthy emotional dissection, in a way. Dissect them in a productive and positive way, not in a negative way. And try not to trap yourself with that negative self-talk, because you will be the only one who is hurting from that. And be a nice person. Be nice to yourself and be nice to others. I want to thank you for being here. I so do appreciate it. If you haven't already, please come by katiehunt.ca to subscribe to receive special offers and insights and all of that. And in a few weeks, I will be having a live tarot card reading on Facebook. So come over and join us there, and you can have your questions answered for free by me. And then it'll be a live replay later. So I hope that you have a fantastic week ahead. And if you have any questions, or you would like to book in with me for a reading or healing or meditation or coaching or whatever, you can email me at thejourneytospirit@gmail.com, and come visit me at katiehunt.ca, and I will put all the information below. Thank you again. I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye.